Story 1. Monday is the day my son goes back to his mother's house. I get him from Friday to Monday, and every Monday I go back home after dropping him off and cry in his bed, wondering if he misses me or thinks that I'm a good father. He's only 4, but that kid's smile and how smart he is just get to me. I love my little guy so much it makes me cry randomly. Story 2. 2 minutes ago, after reading about how our national parks are being prepared to be demolished, I felt it so deeply. Once they are gone, we will never get them back. Story 3. I don't remember. I must have been like 12. My parents, especially my dad, would get mad whenever I was upset as a kid. He would yell at me and hit me, so I haven't cried since I was a kid. It just stopped happening. Story 4. This morning, I dread telling my mom that I got rejected from a program I applied to. Just the thought of knowing she is going to either give me tough love or judge and reprimand me for not doing enough in her opinion, even though I did everything to the best of my ability. I know I am a better candidate than people I know who did get accepted. It was just an unfair selection process, but my mom is going to judge me even if she does not say it out loud. I do not want to tell her at all, but I cannot avoid it because I need to change my schedule now to prepare for another program, and she will notice. I just want to move away from her. I feel like, for the past year, all she has done is belittle me in my academics, and I just cannot handle it anymore. The thought of seeing her, speaking to her, and living under the same roof with her for the next few months makes me want to cry more. Story 5. A few days ago, I was watching Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, and I cried when the United States ship Defiant was destroyed. The alarm it played to signal abandoned ship sounded like such a sad, defeated cry. Then it looked like the ship was intentionally angling itself to protect the escape pods, a final action of defiance by what shouldn't even be a living thing. Oops, I'm kinda crying again. Haha. Story 6. Approximately 2 weeks ago, before my child's health appointment, it was eating at me for months until I crumbled. Thankfully, it went as smoothly as possible. Story 7. Last night, I realized I was in too much pain to even be able to put my kids to bed, so I had to call my mom and ask if I could drop them off with her. My parents were more than willing and happy to have them for the night, but the mom guilt is overwhelming. Cancer is terrible, and chemotherapy drugs with their stupid side effects are frustrating. It's just so difficult. Story 8. When I was telling a work colleague how much it breaks my heart when my autistic son asks why nobody invites him to birthday parties or sleepovers. Story 9. I do not think I have ever seen a wild badger in the United Kingdom, and yesterday I saw one for the first time in the daylight while waiting to cross a country road on a hike. I saw it scuffle around for all of 30 seconds until it got run over by a truck. Rest in peace, my badger brother. Story 10. 3 days ago, just before a call with a client, because they are stressing me out. I don't make the laws. Yelling at me doesn't change the requirements. Story 11. Last week, I woke up to find out my brother stole my car overnight. I had a bad day at work at the hospital. Then after work, I spent 45 minutes walking around the double-ramp parking garage to find my car. Story 12. Yesterday, when my wife and I put our dog down after 14 years, I faced a challenging moment. I am usually a very laid-back, stoic person who grew up with the boys don't cry mentality. I held myself together for nearly 6 days after making the appointment until I dropped my daughters off at my sister-in-law's and heard my 5-year-old say, "Mommy and Daddy are going to put Sophie down." That hit me right in the emotions, and I left without saying thank you. I cried intermittently for the next several hours. Story 13. Apparently, 20% of people in Germany think Hitler had some kind of answer, while 30% support a man who believes rape shouldn't be a crime if it happens within marriage. So today is the short answer. Story 14. A couple of weeks ago, in 2024, we lost our oldest bearded dragon. He was 13. Our giant breed dog, she was 9. My best friend suddenly passed away from a heart attack. We also lost one of our birds and my last living grandparent. I sobbed for hours with my cockatoo on my shoulder, licking my tears while I folded laundry. My children slept, and my husband was out for poker night. Story 15. Thursday. I found out the new owners of my great-grandparents' farmland have donated the structures, which include my childhood home, to the local fire department for live burn training. Story 16. No judgment but hearing on Friday that not only are the two Bebas babies confirmed dead, they were strangled by the hands of Hamas. We are all collectively depressed. We cry every day and weekend. We've spent the past 15 months in an ugly, cruel war with no winners. Utter despair. Story 17. We went to breakfast yesterday and found out the server girl, who always took our order, suddenly passed away a couple of days ago. Her 7-year-old found her dead. Not gonna lie, I kind of broke down a little bit. Story 18. About 16 hours ago, I cried about my younger brother and the strained relationship we have. He's only 19, and at that age, you think you know everything. Someday, our relationship will grow strong again, but waiting for that day kills me. He's still my baby brother. Story 19. About a week ago, while watching the little anglerfish that swam to the surface of the ocean and passed away, it broke my heart for a week. Couldn't stop. Story 20. My dear fur baby Leo was 18 years old, and I had to let him go on Friday. I'm still crying. I have a disability, and for most of my days it was just him and me. Together, always. I know I did right by him. He was suffering, and when I got him as a puppy, I promised him my face would be the last thing he would see because I was going to be with him for life, and I kept my promise. But still, it hurts too much. Story 21. Lost my dad a couple of days after Thanksgiving. I got his ring, my younger brother got his watch, and our oldest got his pendant. One of the diamonds fell out a few weeks ago, and I didn't notice until I was driving. It broke me during the rest of the drive on my way home. Story 22. When my canine companion was ill, I cried before taking her for her procedure, cried when the veterinarian told me it was terminal, cried on my way to hold her as she went for the big sleep, and cried on the drive home. I miss her every day. Story 23. 10 minutes ago, a man whose warehouse I used to lease reached out to ask how I was doing. He is the only person who has asked me that in the last few years. I didn't realize how close to the edge I must be. I just burst into tears and realized I am not okay. Story 24. A couple of days ago, I lost my cat last summer due to health problems. I should have done more to try to help, but I was recovering from a breakdown and just trying to go with the flow. So let that be a lesson for you all. If your pet is sick and needs help, and you want to help them, do not let anyone tell you that you cannot or should not. Forget that. And forget anyone who wants to prioritize their fun over your health, safety, and well-being, then act like you're socially inept for trying to hold a friend group together. Story 25. About a year ago, I found some text messages on my son's phone where he said some really mean things to a friend when he was upset. I was so disappointed in him. You don't know heartbreak until it comes from your own children. Phew. Story 26. Last weekend, I was crying over my dog that we had to put down the day before my 17th birthday. We got a new dog as his replacement, and I just miss him so much. He was my baby. Story 27. Last night, I was up nursing my 3-month-old, feeling like a failure. I have a wonderful life that I love and am so thankful for, but sometimes the disapproval of my parents gets to me, and I have a little cry. Story 28. Tears of rage as I read last night that I had to explain what I did last week to Captain Ketamine as a Veterans Affairs registered nurse in order to keep my job. Funny thing was, when a coworker told me about this, I was watching Saving Private Ryan. I missed the part where the Afrikaners stormed the beaches of Normandy. Story 29. This morning, after visiting my dad in the hospital, I saw that he's actually doing better than he was 2 days ago. However, seeing him so drained and vulnerable shattered my heart. Story 30. Was putting my toddler to bed. We were lying in his bed listening to lullabies while looking through baby photos on my phone. Our son joined our family through adoption at birth, and I felt overwhelmed with gratitude for a shot at parenthood my partner and I weren't supposed to have, for our son, and for his biological parents who chose us to raise him despite the craziness of the world right now. He's such a special little guy to me. He didn't see the tears in the dark, but they were flowing. Story 31. Yesterday, my youngest, who has special needs, is having more violent outbursts. These occur only occasionally but have become more frequent lately for unknown reasons. We are a few years away from needing to have a serious discussion about this, and things can always change. However, it was a significant reality check and, unfortunately, a reminder that they will likely need to live in some sort of facility sooner rather than later to ensure everyone's safety. It's a hard reality. Story 32. This morning, singing in church, it's a very diverse congregation. Just feeling all the people from different walks of life and how connected and beautiful it can be when we come together. Kind of overwhelmed me. Story 33. A couple of days ago, when Donald Trump was threatening to withhold federal funding from Maine if they didn't join him in bullying transgender children, I get so frustrated trying to comprehend that level of cruelty that it makes me burst into tears sometimes. Story 34. This morning, remembering a dear friend who died from cancer 2 years ago, I was the connection to our circle of friends that could visit him. At least he is not suffering anymore. Story 35. Today, my girlfriend loves me, and I have no feelings for her because she's gotten out of shape and refuses to do anything about it. But I know she will hurt herself if I leave, and she's such a sweetheart. Nicest woman I've ever dated by a long distance. Story 36. I got a little misty yesterday watching The Wild Robot with my daughter. But before that, 2 weeks ago, we had to put our almost 17-year-old dog down. Story 37. Yesterday, after a conversation about growing up with my wife, I realized I had a terrible childhood. I explained how common emotional abuse and manipulation were in our household, and I started unpacking some stuff. Suddenly, it all came crashing down, and I sobbed like a baby. Felt good, honestly. Story 38. A few nights ago, I helped care for my dying grandfather. After he passed away in December, my parents refused to support me and instead berated and spoke negatively about me. I'm still very raw about that and my grief, so I was crying about it a couple of nights ago. Story 39. I am writing a book because I had a really good idea for one, and the people around me have not been very supportive of it. So I broke down about it yesterday. Story 40. November last year, I was in medical school and got absolutely destroyed in a class presentation. I got home and cried so hard for about 1 hour straight, and I had another presentation with the same lecturer the next day. At least that one went fairly well, but my eyes were puffy. Medical school is tough, bro. Story 41. A week or so ago when I was drunk, I listened to Remo Farr with Water Gun because of the lyrics. I've seen enough blood and organs flipping around like a stunt double on acid, and I am not even a soldier. Story 42. Just this afternoon about how badly I get treated by a friend who is no longer my friend. I haven't confronted or anything, but I am actively trying to ignore. Story 43. About 2 days ago, I worked so incredibly hard on a project that I fought very hard to present for a marketing strategy at work, and they pretty much threw it out the window without giving it the time of day. I just felt so low. Story 44. Like not choked up, but tears running down my face, walking home from a dentist. 2 to 3 weeks ago, I got a call while there and learned I was finally given an appointment for my bypass surgery. It was pretty daunting to realize it was happening. I have a son who is 4. The surgery has since been successful, and I'm doing fabulous. It was minimally invasive, so I couldn't be luckier and doing better. Story 45. By the end of December 2024, I met someone, and we fell in love immediately. Sadly, life is difficult and we can't be in a relationship right now. We agreed to figure it out as soon as the temporary circumstances pass by December 2026. Story 46. Friday. It was a long, stressful, overdramatic week at work, and I was holding it all in until I just had to have a good cry to release all the anxiety out of me. Story 47. Went on a trip to London with my daughter. Went walking along the river and ran into the COVID-19 memorial wall with the hearts and thousands of names. I didn't even know it existed. I started looking at the names and just lost it. I'm a public health nurse that works with elders, and I was involved with vaccine clinics. I had no idea that was still bottled up inside. I don't think I have ever cried where anyone could see me, but I couldn't stop. We lost a number of patients and heard so many stories from those who lost family and friends. Story 48. A few weeks ago, I realized how fickle family can be. I love the culture of hustling for your individual success. But where we're from, we would have had a whole different level of closeness and looking out for each other at this point in our lives. This is teaching me to be cold. Story 49. Yesterday, driving up the New Jersey Turnpike, it was a hellish, emotional disaster of a week, and it all surfaced. Some of it was happy tears because we just shopped for the senior prom for my goddaughter, but mostly a lot of it was because my world is literally imploding. Story 50. I met my first grandchild. My daughter had a stroke during pregnancy, and after several stressful months, the baby was born healthy. Mom is doing better too. Story 51. Ever since something really traumatic happened to me a few years ago, I cry most days because of it. It used to be all day, but now it's mostly down to a few minutes. It's weird because I already had complex post-traumatic stress disorder from childhood, and I rarely ever cried before this, to the point that I laughingly say I only cry if it's going to result in something, like getting out of a ticket while pulled over or getting the financial aid administrator to let me keep going to college. I think I might have spent many years only allowing myself to feel or display emotions if I really did feel that it was somehow justified by the situation. But I couldn't even force myself to cry when someone close to me died or when I was triggered and thinking about how much adults failed to protect me as a child. Now I cry at the drop of a hat.